So what did we learn about the 49ers in that game on Sunday, in your opinion?
One thing, Jesse, that has been a constant since we've been working together is I've always looked for this team to be able to put 4 quarters of football together consistently, right? And last season, even though the team was very dominant, they tended to struggle putting up points in the first half, and then they would beat teams. And they obviously had that record of how few points they allowed in the second half. What I learned about this team is this is the most complete team that Kyle Shanahan has ever had. This team can score the ball with ease, and this team can stop the ball with ease. This team has studs at special teams that, George Odom, he could have gotten most underrated player award as well for how well he played on special teams. I think he had like 5 tackles on special teams or something like that. Ronnie Bell was playing lights out on special teams. Like, obviously, we got, Moody, the second greatest third-round pick in 49ers history. It's just the streets have been talking. I don't know who said that. I read that somewhere, but, but I heard, like, the Moody jerseys are about to sell off. But anyways, this team is complete, Jesse, and with all the trash talk that was going on before this game, right? From the Dallas fans, all this kind of stuff. This team is great trash talkers, but they were focused. They understood the challenge ahead of them. They were prepared. And one thing that I think has always been a criticism about this team from people like you and other critics of my guy, Kyle Shanahan, is that this team had the ability to be outcoached. And I don't think they have the ability to be outcoached anymore, Jesse. I think now they have the complete package where the players on the field in all phases, the coaching staff on the sideline. I think Kyle Shanahan has taken great strides to elevate his game, and obviously the natural evolution of being a coach for as long as he's been. The addition of Brock Purdy really solves the biggest question mark that he has had his whole tenure here with the 49ers. This is the most complete team. That's what I learned. And there's no reason why this team shouldn't win a Super Bowl as long as they're healthy, because I don't look at, and I know you said there's a few teams that you feel like could beat this team, but I don't think there's a team in this league that the 49ers can't beat.
Oh, that I agree with.
If they are healthy and playing the way that they've been playing these last 5 games.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, what I learned about this team, I got confirmation about this team, what I kind of suspected, which was as great as they were playing and being 4-0. It sounded kind of crazy when week in and week out, I kept saying, I think there's a little bit more to this team. I think that they can do more. I think they can score more. I think that their defense can play just a little bit better. I know they're holding teams to 14.5 points. I know they're scoring more than 30 every week. But I feel like this team is so good that there's another gear to this team. And we found that out on Sunday. In what should have been the biggest test. What was the biggest test? I mean, it was the biggest test out of the 5 games that they have played. Let's not take away from it after the fact. Let's not act like Dallas is awful after the fact. Let's not pretend that we didn't think this would be the biggest test going into it. It absolutely was. They just prepared. They studied harder than they had ever studied, and they aced the exam. It doesn't make the test any less hard. The 49ers came out and were more dominant in what should have been their toughest game than they had been all season long, Sunil. And that tells me that they did have an extra gear that they could go into. And I thought it was there. They just needed to prove it was there for me to be like, okay, it's there. It's definitely there. It is definitely there. And, I had a conversation with Ryan 2 weeks ago, and it was right after. It sounded crazy at the time because it was right after Miami put up 70 against the Broncos. And I said, I know that they just put up 70, but do you think this offense can do or hang with the Miami Dolphins? And it was a tough sell at that point. It really was. And I'm not saying that they're the same. They're not necessarily, they don't have the speed that the Dolphins have. They do it differently. But I just felt like this team was leaving points on the board, as crazy as it sounded. And I felt like they could be scoring 40 every week. Well, guess what? They can score 40 every single week. They could have the first 4 weeks. They didn't. They did this week when it mattered most. This team, as like I said, I thought had another gear. They proved to me they did have another gear, Sunil.
And we know that Kyle Shanahan is one to only show what he needs to show. So I think that in these tougher games, Jesse, you'll see that more often, because I think Kyle Shanahan, like he calls the game based off of who he's playing. Mm-hmm. So he didn't need to do all of the things that he did against the Cowboys. He respects, obviously, the Cowboys defense, so he showed a different game plan, I think. And I think there was a quote that just I was reading before we got on air is Kyle Shanahan's confidence level in Purdy, that he feels like he could call anything in his playbook with Purdy. Well, we know that bag is deep with Shanahan. And I think that as these, I think that you'll see a different level when you play Baltimore, a different level when they play the Eagles, a different level when they play, these tougher matchups. Because to me, Jesse, I think that he doesn't want to put everything on film till he has to, right? And I think he's very strategic with that. And that's probably why we saw them, why sometimes it maybe looks like they're holding back.
Yeah, most certainly. Brandon Simmons says, Jesse, you think Mason is better than Beast Mode? No. I'm Beast Mode. Beast Mode's a very, very good player. I just think that Mason runs similar to him. They look very similar. And I think that he can be a good player in this league. There were some other comments I had to start because these were pretty funny. Brock's here. Thank you for finding time to come here, Brock. I appreciate you. He said, we learned that I'm a top 5 quarterback and I'm just being modest. Fair enough. You've earned whatever you want, Brock. You have a spot on this channel whenever you want. Soul Certified says, Vish knows about the rivalry. Don't be surprised. 2 things. 1, Vish is a historian. I don't think all fans are historians. I know that when I was growing up, I always made arguments for guys like Will Chamberlain being the best basketball player of all time, Jim Brown being the best running back of all time. And the pushback I often got from people that were my age were like, well, we never saw them play, or they were playing against plumbers and they didn't even, there was a bunch of things. They were playing against, Will Chamberlain was playing against everybody that was 6 foot. And it's like, no, he wasn't. Like, you just do a little bit of research. You'll know that that's not true. Not everybody's a historian of the game. And knowing about the rivalry and actually feeling the rivalry also, I believe, are 2 different things. So, yeah, credit to Vish. Like I said, he's a historian. I don't think everybody is Soul Certified, but very, very good comment nonetheless. And then Jimmy Kwan says, I learned that San Francisco is absolutely scary when multiple players get a shot with the ball. Dallas's defense had no answers after they minimized CMC. I appreciate you, Jesse, as well as Grant, Larry, Coach, and Stats. Jimmy, thank you. I appreciate you for the support. And that's a very good point. Dallas really made it a point to stop CMC. And I think they did about as good of a job as you could. But it just showed that even if you pull CMC out of the game plan a little bit, I guess, he's still on the field. So you have to account for him. And if you're counting everything towards him, you got somebody like Kittle who had done almost nothing all season, going 3 for 3 on touchdowns. You got Debo, you got Ayuk, you got Jennings, you got Mason, you got Brock Purdy pulling the trigger. Like, there's so much. They just come at you in waves. What are you going to do? I mean, there's not many, if any, teams that can truly match up with every weapon on this team. It's going to be very, very tough sledding for every team in the league, week in and week out. And I don't envy those defensive coordinators that have to prepare for this team every single week. It's got to be tough. What do you do?